Welcome to Season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In Season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the RAG podcast. On this week's episode, I am so excited to be joined for the third time by Lloyd Gordon. Lloyd is the CEO and founder of Focus Cloud Group. Was once just Focus Cloud. It is now a group of companies. Now, I first interviewed Lloyd at the beginning of 2019 when the podcast first started. He was a client of mine from the end of 2018. When I think we first started working with them, there were less than 20 people. I think it's about 15 people in an office in Gatwick. I then interviewed him at the beginning of 2019, and we told his story of being a £1.6 million biller and his journey to opening a recruitment agency. He spoke so much, we didn't even get onto the recruitment agency story. So 7-8 months later, at the end of November 2019, just before the pandemic, he came into my office and we did part 2, where we talked about Focus Cloud as an organization. At that point, there were about 25 to 30 people doing some really amazing things. And in the meeting, Lloyd talked about his future ambitions. He said money wasn't the driver, but he did want to grow a 100-man business. Today, in 2022, Lloyd has just completed the acquisition of Cognitive Group. Cognitive are one of the strongest Microsoft niche recruitment agencies in the UK. And that now joins the Focus Cloud Group of cloud-based recruitment agencies looking at Workday, SAP, ServiceNow, security, etc. There is 107 employees now after the acquisition. I think Lloyd was up to about 70. And by bringing these guys over, they're at 107. Lloyd, in this episode, tells the story, and I mean tells the story of how he's gone out and acquired another organization. He breaks it all down. Lloyd is probably the most authentic, honest guy you could ever meet. He doesn't hold anything back. And as a result of that, he makes amazing episodes. His first 2 were 2 of the most listened to shows I've ever recorded. So in this episode, you're going to listen to a man who's achieved the dreams he set out to achieve and felt underwhelmed. You're going to listen to a man who tells you how he became really, really, really close friends with the CEO of the business he was going to acquire and made sure that everything in that transaction was fair. He also talks about where his business is heading, where they're going, and everything in between. An amazing episode, an amazing man. I'm proud to know Lloyd really well, proud to work with Lloyd for the last 4 years or so. So you are definitely going to enjoy this episode. Without further ado, Lloyd, welcome back for the third time to the RAG podcast.
Thank you, Sean. Proud to be here.
I know. And you're a completely different man. We're in completely different places. We did two recordings. I think it was 2019 early, and then late in 2019. I think we did 2 about 6 months apart because I didn't start
2018, then again in 2019, I think it was.
Well, I didn't start the show till 2019, so it was the very beginning of 2019, I think, when I started the show. So you would have been one of the first episodes, and then you came on in November 2019 before the pandemic. When I had an office, 20th of November. And I actually thought we'd do the part 3 a lot sooner, if I'm honest. But things have changed. Life's changed. We're all over the place now. Your life has exploded. And I'm buzzing. I can't wait to find out. Well, I know bits and bobs, but I want to find out even more. And I'm sure more people will want to find out more. You're the number one episode I get asked about when people say, who's that guy again who said he'd die if his business didn't make it? That quote
he would die making his business make it. I said.
You said so,
that. Business will be successful, or I'll be dead. Otherwise, I'll be dead. Yeah. And I'm still here, so I'm still alive. I think I think I'm still alive. So yeah, must have gone all right, right?
Yeah, man. Well, the people talk about it. That's what I'm saying. People remember that quote. People have shared that episode. People want to know more about you, which is exciting. So, Lloyd, I'm going to do it again, right? Third time. Obviously, people might listen, people might not. Tell us who you are right now and the business that you operate is a much bigger business than what we talked about then.
It certainly is. I'm still Lloyd Gordon.
Yeah, not changing that anytime soon.
No, I'm not going to change.
Lloyd Gordon,
I'm still Lloyd Gordon. But I'm Lloyd Gordon, the group CEO of the Focus Cloud Group now.
Mm-hmm. Focus Cloud Group, right?
Focus Cloud Group.
To go backwards, so the first time I interviewed you, I think you probably had 15, 20 staff. I think the next time was about 30, 25, 30. Where are you at now?
107.
107 people. Now, it has been 3 years.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of change there. So you're now the Focus Cloud Group. You've gone through an acquisition. You've acquired another business. We're going to get into all this.
Yes.
How many people were Focus and how many people have you acquired?
So before the acquisition was actually complete, we hit like the 74 number, and then bringing on Cognitive Group, as you know, into the group, adding people as well to Focus Cloud. It makes us that magic number. I think if I remember rightly, in one of the episodes, you said where do you want to take it, and I was like, I'd really like to get to 100 people.
Yeah, I remember you saying
that. And once the acquisition of Cognitive was completed, getting to that 100 people was like, I'm sure I mentioned that I wanted to get to 100 people. That was originally it was one of the original plans when I set up the business, right, in September 2015. I was like, so I'm sitting there by myself, as you do, shitting yourself, excuse my French. And I just thought to myself, I want to get this business to 100 people. And I never got the business to 100 people until the acquisition happened. So
you still got it there. It's interesting though, because at the end of the last episode, you talked about maybe being acquired in the future, which again still could happen, right? But did you think you would acquire another business in the next 3 years? Was that in your head even then? Because you didn't mention that.
Yeah, I mean, we did actually talk over that, right? And I think I said at the moment I don't really see us being acquired. I see us being the acquirer, but at some point, things. I wasn't going to say things must come to an end. Things are not going to come to an end, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, there will be an opportunity and an option that presents itself. Yeah. Where we may be acquired by a larger recruitment company.
Well, you're only 26, Lloyd, so you've got plenty of time ahead of you, I think.
24.
24, right? So you got plenty of time ahead.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this is like, for the first time, thinking, fuck.
Everyone's like, I'm not playing poker with that guy because I actually believed what he just said.
Anyone watching YouTube probably goes, is he really? Anyone listening will be like, oh, he could be. Who knows? He's just got a deep voice. No, Lloyd is definitely.
I've got no grey hair.
Let's just put it that way. He's not 24. We talked about last episode as well, how you, when you were going bald and you thought the barber was just cutting your hair that way, the shapes. I mean,
it's really important I explain this, right? I wasn't actually going bald, right?
Yeah, whatever.
And if I let my hair grow, it's not actually bald, right? But what happens is at the front here and here, it just goes back a little bit, So like I'm pretty sure if I went to see Wayne Rooney's guy, right?
Yeah, you get it back.
I just wouldn't be.
I think you'd be quite thin on top. I think you'd be a bit thin on top. I'd like to see it though. Why don't we do the 4th episode with you? Then go to Sean Anderson out and see how it goes. See how you get on.
I think if I let my hair grow now, Sean, I might have the same color though.
Well, I got mine cut yesterday by a mate, and he went mental on me. Honestly, he's my missus's mate's fella, and he's got a good barber shop. And towards the back end, I was like, I'm not quite happy with one bit, and then he just ended up carried on cutting. I feel like my head's lost about an inch. I feel really slim, really.
I'm just looking at that hairstyle, right, and I'm just thinking of how much that would suit me.
I think you'd look good, mate. I think you'd pull it
Yeah,
off.
I would.
I think
Yeah.
you'd pull it off. What we'll do is we'll get one of our designers to just do a mock-up.
Yeah.
I just bought a house. I and I don't like the color of the front of the house, like this yellowy rendering. So I hate it. So I sent it to my designers, and within like 5 minutes, they polished it white, changed the colors of the window frames, and it looks sick. I can't wait to move in and do it. But I'll get them to do the same with you. We'll give you a Sean Anderson quiff. We'll get the whole look going, and who knows? We'll get it done.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, give me I haven't got the strong eyebrows you've got and the shoulders to pull off the shaved head. I just look a bit weird. It wouldn't work for me. People are listening going, are we going to get to any business chat? We will. Yeah. We will.
This is a recruitment show. Yeah.
That's it. Fuck recruitment show. We'll talk about what we're talking about. So just to recap on the two episodes, I remember the first one, you came to my office and we genuinely spoke mainly about you being a recruiter, and I didn't really get to Focus Cloud. It was just massively important to listen to your story as like a 1.6 million pound biller, and the way you came about like moving companies and leaving and all that. It was really intense, and really I thought it was wicked. We got the very beginning of your journey out, and then we really went into the journey up until that point in 2019.
Yeah.
So where I want to pick up is where we stopped, right? So I remember that time like it was yesterday. I think I've been very open about the fact that was when like my marriage fell apart at Christmas 2019 and the pandemic hit and it was fucking mad.
Yeah.
What happened for you? So if we go into that January 2020 time, I remember the market was in a good position. I remember, I think we had a record month in February. I remember things were really positive, and then the coronavirus noise came. So tell me, how did it all unfold for you in the business?
Yeah. So, towards the end of 2019, our figures were just doing this, right? And we were investing in new people. We were hiring people that we didn't necessarily need at that point in time because we knew that we was going to have a fantastic 2020.
Yeah.
And we invested in a load of back office systems. So there was loads of investment that went on, right, for this amazing 2020 that we were going to have. And then I remember Lloyd went away to somewhere in Asia. I can't remember exactly where he went. And he called me around December time and he said, Lloyd, we really need to start planning for this coronavirus thing that's going to come. And to be honest with you, it hadn't hit the UK yet.
No.
And I was like, I'll be honest with you, I was just like, not towards Lloyd, obviously, but when people say, oh, it's going to come, it's going to, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I'm like, nothing's going to happen. No. Nothing's going to happen. It's just going to all fall to death, right? And then end of January, February, at the time we were still only Workday, right?
Right.
And I'm starting to think to myself, we got a lot of customers asking, can you help us with SAP?
Yeah.
Can you help us with some other areas? And we'd reached that point in the Workday market where I felt like it was like that, not market wise. I just felt like, we had so many recruiters all doing the Workday market. Every time I hired someone into the Workday team, they'd be falling over themselves, with customers and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, we need to continue growing, but I know that I can't at the moment continue to grow in Workday. So
and you couldn't just suddenly get the same recruiters to start working SAP because it ruined the message, didn't it?
Yeah, it does, because even now you've got the Focus Cloud group which sits on the top, and then you've got Focus Cloud, which is the Workday brand, and we may tweak the name of Focus Cloud to reflect the Workday specialism, and then that's a totally separate company, right? And then now you have SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Life Science, Security now as well. But going back to 2020, around February time, so we've still got this, kind of Corona thing happening, but it hadn't come back. It hadn't come to the UK yet. So I guess typical me, right? I'm like, okay, I'm just, we're going to launch this SAP brand, right? So we launched this SAP brand, and in the first week, from a standing start, we made 2 contract placements from a total standing start. So it flew straight away. It was fantastic. It was really good. It was the right move. And then COVID comes. And then COVID comes to the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
The 2 contractors that we placed in our first week, then got stopped at the end of February. So
where were they located? Were that Italy or something?
They were both. One of them was living in Belgium, and the other guy was a UK guy, right? And I remember, like, when the kind of realization, like, oh my God, this coronavirus is actually coming. It's actually come to the UK, and I, I always speak to people who know better than I do, right? So I have Wallid, and I have a few other people on the outside that every now and again I speak to and just say, what do you think about this? I'm thinking of doing this or whatever. But in this particular case, I could not talk to anyone because no one had ever been through it. You know, people have been through recessions and all that sort of stuff, but no one had ever been through.
I found that I got,
lockdown.
Not to interrupt your story, but I remember when I spoke to people, everyone did just lean on the financial crisis advice. And that was probably what actually changed my business, was that the fear that it was just a complete meltdown of cash. And it didn't actually eventuate that way, did it? It was a short.
No, I mean, at the time, so once I'd realized this thing's for real and it's coming to the UK, or it'd come to the UK, and then I think Boris came on and said, you have to let everyone work from home. And I'm like, I'm typically an old school recruiter, right? So, like, people were in the office. Did
you even have laptops for people and stuff?
No, we had workstations, and then we had these things. Yeah, everyone had a laptop.
Did they have a laptop plugged in? Yeah, because
it was 5 days. It was 5 days in the office.
Yeah.
And I never even had contemplated letting people work from home. Why would you want to work from home? We've got a really nice office there. We've got 2 offices. We had Gatwick and London. Why would you want to do that, right? And then I'm forced to do it. I remember I called an emergency meeting on a Sunday. So there was a couple of the senior managers in the finance Peter. And I literally just sat down with them and goes, okay, worst case scenario, if all of our clients turn around and say, we're all affected by the pandemic crisis and we're not paying you, what is the absolute worst case scenario? How long can we last? So at the time, I'm thinking to myself, there's a real chance here that I might lose my business. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. For the first time, apart from, the first sort of, 3 to 4 months of Focus Cloud.
Yeah.
Which, if you go back to the first episode, you kind of hear a bit about what I went through. But for the first time, I'm thinking to myself, well, this is for real.
How many months run rate did you have?
We had so if all of our clients turned around and said, we're just not paying you, do what you got to do, then we could last for 9 months at that point. So we had a lot of money in the bank.
See, I was sat there. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was sat there in December 2019. We invested in this coaching thing. We parked it as soon as COVID came in, but he talked about always having 3 months runway as a business in your cash reserves, and anything above that, you can invest it or whatever. And at the time, we didn't even have it going into 2020. And his words were like, anyone could fly a plane into the Shard or London Bridge, and suddenly, like, the economy crashes, and a bit like 9/11. And I remember saying to Amma, going like, we should get that 3 months together. And we got it. We did have it just before. But yeah, and a lot of businesses didn't. I remember a couple of recruitment companies phoning me up going, we're fucked if we don't get so much cash off the payroll now. Like, we've leveraged the fuck out of it, and we haven't got the capital. So you were 9, that's brilliant. For the amount of employees you had, 9 months is a really good cash reserve, but still don't want to spend it, do you?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, there wasn't even a thought in my mind, okay, well, what I could do to get through this period of time is let X, Y, and Z go. Do you know what I mean? It didn't even enter my mind, right? I just thought, we have to survive this. And now I've got to let people work from home. And I don't know what the market conditions are going to say, because no one's ever been through this pandemic, right?
No.
So anyway, we go from home. We all work from home. We go to, we put a few people on furlough. So when I looked at the team, I thought, okay, here are the junior members of the team. Here are the senior members of the team. Here are the people that I think can last a recession. or hard economic times, which I didn't know
How
would
long?
happen, but I just assumed it would be hard economic times. And then I put those people on furlough. And we already had the SAP business at the time. So we'd set the SAP business up a couple of weeks before. And we just carried on, and we went to daily meetings. Everyone jumped on Teams, and it was okay. I mean, we had the first couple of months. We had a couple of placements that were pulled, so people were due to start, and the clients decided they couldn't start those people, so we had to let those people down. But generally, we wasn't really that much affected by it. We didn't see growth in that period, in that very early pandemic period.
Did you see people still interviewing and making placements even in April that year?
Yes and no. We still made placements. We still made that whole initial pandemic thing was all about mindset.
Yeah,
it was all about mindset. It was about, if you're going home, or actually you didn't need to go home because you were working from home, right? If you were sitting at home watching the news and listening to all the doom and gloom and listening to how many people have died and all that sort of stuff, then jumping on the phones the following day, you may have thought to yourself, well, no one's hiring.
Yeah.
And the team, there were various members of the team that were saying things like that, and they were right. There were quite a few clients that unfortunately had made a lot of their people redundant, and they wasn't hiring. But there were still clients out there that still needed help. And us being in quite a positive financial position, we also went to our market that had been so good for us and said, hey, if you're worried about bringing on Workday professionals in the market and you genuinely don't have the ability to be able to pay the fee, we'll do it. We'll either do it for you for free, or we'll do it on extended payment terms or something like that, just to kind of go out there and help the market, right? But it was a really tough time, Sean. It was horrible. I can't think that there will ever be a time quite like that again, because you're managing people who are working from home. They're not used to working from home. You're not, or I and the managers are not used to managing people working from home. You're managing people's relationships, right? So you remember, people working from home in the first couple of months would be fine, and then all of a sudden they're starting to have arguments with the partners, and the kids won't let them get on with it because the kids don't understand. So they're walking in when you're on a calls and everything like that. So, and you're managing all of that as you're trying to ensure your business survives.
One thing you did really well though, which I think I tried to do, is you didn't hide from it. Like you were consistently on LinkedIn. You were still promoting your positive messages. You were putting up your videos of your motivational speeches, and I felt like you were one of the leaders in the industry that said, "Fuck it, I'm going for this." You didn't just so many people just retreated and just spoke. All they did was do internal stuff. I think it was really important to stay front facing through that period. And it was really important to be the guy that was always positive throughout that for me. So I'm super positive all the time. I never see a negative, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that when I'm by myself, I'm not thinking, do you know what I mean? But I'm not going to portray that, because I need to portray that, we need to come together in this period of time, and we need to beat this, right? And then, and then my dad died, right? So that was almost like, it was in the pandemic, wasn't it? It was right in the You were like, can I even go and see him? And
so that period, we're going through all that. We're trying to ensure the business survives. I'm trying to ensure that I can carry on employing people. When we were, like I said, we were fine, right? But we just weren't growing like that through that. We were like that.
Yeah.
And then I get a call from my dad's nursing home saying, "Oh, we think he's contracted COVID." I'm like, if my dad gets COVID, he's a goner, right? So and then trying to manage the business, trying to navigate through that, and deal with the fact that my dad was in hospital and it was confirmed that he did have COVID. And not being able to go and see him because I knew he was going to die because of all the other things that was wrong with him. But I just hadn't prepared myself for the fact that I may not be able to go and see him.
You did get to see him though, didn't you?
Well, yes, I did. So I carried on with a brave face, if I'm honest, through that, and made sure that I was there every day on the calls with the guys. I was, making the phone calls with the guys. I was trying to make the company successful with the guys at the same time as dealing with, doctors calling me, telling me, yeah, he probably hasn't got long. And I'm like, I can't deal with the fact that I'm not going to be able to see this guy. Right.
Yeah.
So I remember it like it was yesterday. On the 22nd of April, I got the call from the doctor, and if I'm honest with you, at that period of time, I'm all over the place.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it just skewed my brain. I couldn't deal with that and that at the time, but I was carrying on. But I was all over the place. And the doctor phoned me up and he said he hasn't got long. And I'm like, okay. What I said to the doctor was, look, I'm a really big guy, right? And there's no way I'm letting this man die without me seeing him first. I'm coming to the hospital and no one's going to stop me get to see my dad. And he was like, all right, come. So I went. And I won't go too much into, what happened. I saw him, but otherwise.
I remember it though, because we spoke about
on the Rag podcast. That won't be good.
Well, we spoke about it at the time, and look, I was going through similar. I was going through a breakup, ended of a marriage, and trying to do the academy, and trying to be on LinkedIn, and trying to do a podcast, and trying to be this positive guy internally and externally. And there's only so much you can take before you have a bit of a, you're fucked, aren't you? But it's great to see you came through all that. Tell me, once the business came back to a level of right, the world's opening up again, because it was probably on and off for about a best part of a year, right? How did you respond to the working environment? Because that's the bit pre-COVID, you were totally old school, which is fine. Yeah. Then you're forced into a new way of working. How did you come out of that?
Well, it kind of didn't, right? It kind of we made it come back, in all honesty. So going back to the last conversation I had with my dad, I said to my dad, look, I'm going to make you really proud and make sure you look down on us every now and again, because we're going to do something really, really special. And then the following day he died, right? And then the following day after that, I was back on the phones, back in the office. I was actually in the office because I lived around the corner at the time from the office. I was going in work when everyone else was working from home. And then we kind of went along like that for a couple more months. So, and in June, July, I'm sitting there one night and I'm thinking to myself, we're not on the retreat, but we're not growing. And this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I promised our guys. It's not what we've said to the market. It's not what we've always said to the market. We're a high growth, high performance business. And I just thought, you know what? I've been through worse. This is not the first 3 to 4 months when I almost went bankrupt. You remember that? Right? It's possible that I might go bankrupt if this doesn't turn round and then everything dips off. But what's the worst that can happen, Lloyd? We might as well just go for it, right? That's what happened. And then the morning after, I called everyone on a call, and I said to the guys, look, the best form of defense is attack. It always has been, always will be. And what we're doing at the moment is we're being neutral. We're not defending, and we don't have to defend at the moment, but we're also not attacking. And this was like June time. And I'm like, okay. I think I said to the guy, look, the guys, I said, I've got this amount of money in the bank. The business has this amount of money in the bank. And I am putting it all on the line, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite to what every other recruitment company at that moment in time was doing, is we're going to grow. Everyone else was letting people go. We just started growing. And I was like, and if it doesn't work, guys, we're going to go out of business. I can tell you that now, right? And I am fully happy with this failing. And do you know what? If it fails, just start it again the following day. Right? It's not, but I was like, all in. This is all in time. So I need everyone to come together as a team.
How did they respond to that?
From what I remember, I think, everyone was like that. The following day, I signed up to an office which was double the size of the office we had in London, and there
was no one doing that at that period in time.
No, we signed up to an office double the size the following day
in London,
and that was really like a show of I'm deadly serious about this. I'm not just saying this. I'm fully willing for this company to go out of business. We have to keep growing. We're not gonna scale back. We're not doing it. And that was really a show of that intent. And then a few weeks later, we started focus on Salesforce. A few months later, we started focus on ServiceNow. And then in January 2021, we started focus on life science.
Right.
So we actually started 4 new brands in the pandemic. And then the life science brand was January 2021. And from that day, do you know what? From that day, that call I had with the guys, we just went like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was like a switch. Maybe you could say maybe I got the timing right, because there was a bounce in the market where the clients were like, okay, we just have to get used to this now. Let's start hiring again and stuff like that. But
do you think you rallied the troops in a way though, that you almost felt you made them feel different than everyone else? Like you actually said, look, we're going to go and do something that no one else is doing. And therefore they took that and felt different, felt privileged to be part of that, felt excited by it, as opposed to, even if it's not true, even if everyone around them was growing, they don't know anyway after.
Well, I can tell you something. Not many recruitment companies through that period of when we were doing it, they was not growing, because we were able to pick up a number of those recruiters who were let go by other recruitment companies. So no one else was growing at that time. And I just thought, it's like Warren Buffett always says, when something else is happening in the market, you do the opposite. Do you know what I mean? So I just thought I just do the opposite, and it worked. And I think you'd have to ask the guys, right, of how they felt when I said that. They all rallied around as well, right? I didn't do this by myself. Everyone had to get themselves really up for it. Everyone had to change their mindset.
What tactical changes were made though? So one thing is an office and saying, right, we're hiring again. No one else is doing that. But when it comes to the actual job on the floor for the guys, did they make any changes or adjustments, or was it just was it really just about hiring and loading into what you were already doing?
We didn't really make any changes, no, from what we were already doing, but we definitely made a mindset change. Yeah. So that mindset change of, I've already said to you, if this doesn't work, the company's going to go out of business. We've got this amount of money, so we can last this long, and we're going to start hiring. And by the way, I've doubled the size of the office. Do you know what I mean? So I've put more stress on the business at that particular time. So you've almost gone from, that period of we're okay bumbling along at the moment because it's really tough at the moment. The market's not very good at the moment, and almost accepting that was the scenario we're in. To I don't care. We're gonna continue hiring people, and if we don't make it work, we're gonna go out of business. Simple as that. And everyone had to rally round and get that same mindset, and that's what happened. Like I said, the increase for us was huge, and And I always think back to that meeting, like as soon as that meeting happened, it was just like bang.
What sort of numbers? What sort of number increase are we talking from a revenue perspective?
We were on about 50 odd contractors at the time through the pandemic. And our permanent revenue was good. It was typical of what you were seeing on the other rag podcast episodes. And by the start of 2021, in fact, not by the start of 2021, by let's say Q2 2021, we were on 200 contractors.
Wow.
So we had grown 400% in that period of time within an 8 to 9 month period. And our perm revenue was growing at the same rate. The problem was we were set up for a business that was doing what we used to be doing. So
your systems and your processes weren't
systems and process just wasn't there, right? Because we were absolutely fine with what we were doing. We were making lots of money and everything was good and we were growing and everything was nice.
Yeah.
We was not set up to be a company with 200 plus contractors at that time and significant permanent revenue.
What problems did that present to you?
Just time for the back office guys, really. Just things that if I'd have known that kind of growth was going to happen, I would have made sure that I put those systems and processes in way before that had happened. Yeah. But no one could have ever said that that's what's going to happen. Not 400%.
No. That's mad. That is mad. How did that feel for you? Because I know you've never been that motivated by money. You've never been really. You knew it had come, but when you're seeing the revenue coming in, does it change you at all? Does it affect a person when they see a 400% increase in revenue and obviously profit hopefully moves in a similar line? Does it affect you? Does it change anything?
No, I wouldn't say so. Not personally. No, you just kind of get on with it. I have anyway. I've just kind of got on with it, and obviously the guys are making much more money because they're billing more. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see people changing their lives and changing their families' lives at the same time when you're effectively changing your life. And the company, everyone's winning trajectory at the time. It's really nice. Good to see.
Everyone's winning at that point, right? Yeah. And I think that is a big challenge in a lot of recruitment firms. I experienced that where you've got one or two big billers and you've got shitload of average billers and you've got a lot of rookies that aren't making any money. And I remember at one point, I was probably the only person earning more than 6 figures and probably anywhere near that at one point. And then it got a bit better. But so you've not got this culture necessarily of everyone celebrating success. And then when you're going out for drinks, like everyone just expects I pay for everything because I'm the top biller. I'm like, well, is that fair? What about the big boss? What about the boss?
Yeah.
Like, we go on billers' lunches and the boss would just piss off at like 3 o'clock and go on, Sean, take care of it. I'd be like, that goes against what I believe in anyway. But have you seen now that there's a decent core of people that are doing well, and it feels like it's not just that finite number at the top.
There always was, is the truth of it. Like from a contract point of view, we were on pre-pandemic, we were on like 50 odd contractors to then jump to 250, which we're on now. But when we was on 50 contractors, the permanent revenue supplemented our contract revenue. So people were always earning good money. Yeah. But that elevation of the company throughout that period elevated everyone else's, and some guys that were, let's say above average in that period of time, all of a sudden become super billers.
Yeah.
Billing extraordinary amounts every single month, and it became the norm for them. So I think once you bill £1 million, it becomes the norm for you, right? Yeah. So there's
What do you do though? Because you've done that. You've been at that point. You've gone beyond that point. As the founder, as the owner, seeing these people, what steps do you take to look after them or to work with them? Because some businesses would go, you hit 1 million, kind of just fuck off, keep going, like you're brilliant, and they worry about all the others, but they ignore the top, and then they wonder why they leave and set up their own shit because actually you neglect them for 2 years because they're really good. So what have you managed to think about that and put time?
Yeah, I think you know, I've always got it in the back of my mind of my particular scenario, right? And how we're going to retain people through the journey of this business. And I'm always conscious that I need to make sure that those people are suitably incentivized. And they will be, and they are, especially with you know, our new structure, our new group structure is like some of these guys that have been here for a long time. You remember I always said like people are going to be looked after. Always said that from the start. Some of these guys won't have to work. I've been told, you know, when I've put together this structure for some of these guys, and there's a lot of people involved in this, right? So it goes from the top right down to the bottom, and I'm including people in like back office wouldn't even get a look into something like that in another company, let alone another recruitment company. So I'm trying to involve everyone in it, but I can tell you this. Some of these guys will be able to choose whether they ever work again.
Wow. What sort of time frame?
We've got a 3 to 5 year plan. I mean, I think we jumped over the acquisition here.
Yeah, we'll go into that in a sec.
We've got a 3 to 5 year plan. You know, it could happen sooner. It depends on the growth of the business. We've got a target in place.
Yeah.
And once that target's in place, you know, we'll do something. We'll do a transaction, and there you go.
I'm interrupting today's episode to mention our sponsor. Talent Ticker are here to help everyone who are in such a candidate short market, right? So if you're looking to grow your recruitment business in 2022, you know candidates are important, and Talent Ticker are here to help. What they do is they help recruiters work smart and not hard. They've got over 300 agency clients, recruitment agency businesses that use Talent Ticker, and that helps them connect to the right person at the right time for the right reason. Okay. It also automates a lot of monotonous tasks we use and provides simple tools to identify ideal and off-the-grid candidates, people that are under the radar for open roles. So if you like the sound of finding more deeper level talent that's not exclusively on LinkedIn, for example, then get over to www.get.talentticker.ai/Hoxo. You'll find the link in the episode and go and take advantage of the special offer they've got on there for our listeners. So let's go back then to when did this whole, so you've acquired the Cognitive Group. Jonathan Keen's been on the podcast. I know him not as well as I know you, but I know the guy. I really like him. And I met him through the TRN, which I imagine might have been how you met. I don't know, with James Osborne's connections. You know, he's good at that, very good at that. Tell me about, where did it even start? Let's go back to when did you start to think, well, you know, we might need to acquire a business and even look at that as a situation?
I didn't, is the truth. It didn't for me. So what actually happened was James Osborne was involved, yes, and he is involved.
Yeah.
So I spoke to James and I said to him, this was probably the middle of 2021, I would say, and I was thinking of bringing in like a private equity investor or doing something. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I just knew that perhaps to get us to that next step, something had to happen, whatever that something was going to happen. I didn't really know, right? So I spoke to James about it, and he said to me, let me introduce you to this guy, Jonathan Wright. So I met up with Jonathan and told Jonathan all about Focus Cloud and what we'd achieved, and shared some figures and all these types of things. And Jonathan was just sitting there going, "You've done so well. You know, you've done," because I think I've always had my feet on the ground, and I will always have my feet on the ground, right? And I don't sit there thinking, "Oh, we've done so well. Look at this. Look at what," do you know what I mean? Look at what we've done. We have smashed it. I'm not that. I don't think like that, right? I just think we've got to continue growing. It doesn't matter how good we are, how successful we get. We still got to keep pushing, right? So I'm sitting in front of this guy who has been there and done it, ex CEO of Alexander Mann Group, and a really knowledgeable guy.
Yeah.
And this guy is telling me that you're the best, you're the best thing since sliced bread, and your business is really thing. And I knew we were doing well, but I was like, okay, that's really nice of you to say that. I really appreciate that. And then he starts talking about the options that that could be available to me. Maybe flotation on the stock market at some point, which I'd never even thought about. He can obviously introduce us to various private equity investors and things like that as well. So I decided to go down that route with him and just talk, because I really need it to be the right private equity investor if someone's going to come in and try and change things too much. I appreciate you're gonna have a say, and that's what I want, but I want it to be a positive say.
Yeah.
And you kind of hear all these stories, these horror stories, right? And I'm just not up for that. That's just not going to work with me, So I have this call, and very, very, very nice guy, but just wasn't for me, And it was only the first.
Step back a sec. So you're making a really strong EBITDA. You're growing rapidly. You've got a brilliant business. What did Jonathan Wright say that made you think, actually, what's the next step that he sees that you didn't see? Because I see your EBIT gets reinvested into your people, and it just continually grows organically. That's kind of the vision I see. What do they tell you is possible that makes you even start having different levels of conversation?
Well, I think when you bring in, a private equity investor, obviously they buy a percentage of your company, which frees up some cash for myself, which obviously would change my family's life, which I want to do that, right? At the time, I want to do that, and I also want investment into the company so we can grow. We want to go international, And if I can bring in some expertise, someone who understands the values of the group and the culture of the company and how it must carry on and grow like this, then why wouldn't you do that at that point in time?
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought, rather than me always be closed off at these types of conversations, because these types of conversations have happened before, I've always said no.
Yeah.
I will indulge in this conversation. And it just wasn't for me. It just, it was a conversation. I went into it open-minded. It just wasn't for me. And so I parked that idea and thought, okay, well, we'll just do it ourselves then. We will just do it ourselves. We'll just do something else, right? And about a week went past, and Jonathan called me up. And he said, because I hadn't looked at who Jonathan was on the board for. I didn't, James told me, go and meet this guy. I had to meet this guy, right? Yeah. I didn't really, I want him to introduce me to all of his connections. I'm not interested really who he's on the board for. That's none of my business. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like,
I get
it. And Jonathan called me up and said, I've got an option for you, right? So at the time, of course, we've got Workday, we've got SAP, we've got Salesforce, we've got ServiceNow, and we've got the life science brand, and we just started the security brand, right? Yeah. And he calls me up and he says, if there was an opportunity for you to acquire a business that was very prominent in a space that you're not in, but in the cloud space, would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely. 100%, because I've got other cloud technologies that I want to penetrate those markets as part of the bigger plan for the Focus Cloud Group.
Yeah,
Microsoft was part of that.
Yeah,
right. So I already knew I'd have to have a Microsoft brand at some point.
Yeah,
and when it came to light that it was the Cognitive Group, who I already knew of, and I knew that they were really, really good in the Microsoft space. I'm like, this could be amazing. This could be an amazing thing. But of course, I'd never met John. It was just an idea at that time. And it was just like, if the option was there, Lloyd, would you do it? And I'm like, yeah, you know, the monkeys have hairy babies. You know, do you know what I mean? I'm just like,
did you say that to Jonathan Wright? I hope you did.
I don't know whether I said that to him. I think he was just trying to get to know me as a person. I think I might have scared him off if I'd have said that at the time.
You just cemented it.
And then I got the opportunity to go and meet with John, and we got on really well. You know, I think we were very open. I was very open with him about me and about, you know, the values and culture of the company and how I want the company to grow and what's important to me moving forward. And John was in a position where, you know, he'd had cognitive for 14 years, and he wanted to tweak some areas of his life, and it just worked really well. And they needed that elevation that we had already had. So we'd already gone through the international growth phase. Yeah. You know, we'd conquered many European countries, whereas cognitive are very, very strong in the UK. They've also got some presence in Germany, but apart from that,
they do some stuff in France as well. Am I making that up?
Yeah, they do bits and pieces in France, bits and pieces in Germany, but really their core market is the UK. I mean, they're number one, right? They're number one. Cognitive is number one Microsoft recruiter in the UK, as far as I'm concerned. And I know there are other Microsoft recruitment companies out there, but they don't touch cognitive. They don't, not even close.
Right.
You know, so you know, do you want to bring that into the Focus Cloud group and create this super brand? Yeah, you know, and it just.
What date was this first meeting with John Keane then? How long ago was that?
It was in. I think it was in September.
So
September
a year ago.
2021. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. September, maybe October 2021, and it was just like you know, we were just flirting, right? We just we just met each other and stuff like that, and we were like, you know, I was like, is this a company that I really want to have as part of the group? And he was like, is this a company that we want to be part of the group? And you know, all types of different things. And then it started to get very serious at the end of 2021. And I'd confided in some of the guys at Focus Cloud at that point that this was potentially going to happen. And yeah, I mean, you know, here we are today.
So what I'm interested in is, though, not, you don't have to go into every detail, but on a higher level, what actually goes on at that point? So you both express interest.
Yeah.
Like together, and you're like, well, I think, you know, this works for me. I think this could work for me. Like, what happens next? Like, how do you? Because I know you've had a year, and there's been some real, you know, challenging points in the transaction. Talk us through the high level of what went on, because I think a lot of people don't know these things. I don't know these things.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there was challenging points in the transaction. I would just say that we probably undercooked the time that it would take.
Right.
You know, bearing in mind, like. You know, cognitive is super successful, but and has got very strong, you know, back office processes. Everything at cognitive is very slick and smooth, and it just functions, right? It just works. Right. They've done a phenomenal job, right? In all that time, whereas with Focus Cloud. Things are a little bit like crazy. It's just, you know, it's a bit like, you know, you've gone from this amount of contractors to this amount of contractors, and you can imagine the bedlam behind that, right? You know, we have to run around and do a lot of things that actually, if we'd have planned for this to happen before it happened, we wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So things like, you know, audits. So initially you go through a negotiation phase, right? So first of all, does the culture fit? Do you want to acquire this company, Lloyd? Yeah, I think so. John, do you want to be acquired by the Focus Cloud group? Do you want to work with Lloyd? Yeah, I quite like him. We really like each other. We're good friends. We became very good friends very early in the process, right? Which helped the process. And and then you go through the negotiation, right? So you get around the table, and of course, this is the first time that I'd done this, right? So I'm looking to the experts to advise me and things like that. It was a daunting time, and you kind of go into the negotiations thinking, this is business. You know, I've got to be really strong in these negotiations because this is business at the end of the day. But then me and John really like each other, so it's like it was a very difficult period like that.
What you're ultimately trying to get to is a price you both are buying and selling price effectively of what you both.
Yeah, and I also, you know, I've had Focus Cloud for 7 years now, right? And I know what it's done for me. I also know what it's taken out of me, right? I'm not the same as what I was in 2015. John has had Cognitive for 14 years. So there's much more behind it than that. And being the person that I am, regardless of whether we were in a business negotiation or not, I'm still going to be ethical, and I'm still going to do the right thing by John and by the people in Cognitive. And I can't operate in a way that doesn't allow me to do that, right? Yeah. So I want John to see the fruits of all of his labor. Whereas I think a lot of people in that same scenario go, I just want to get the company as cheap as I can. I didn't think like that.
No.
I thought I want him to do really well out of this, and I want his people.
You want everyone to feel happy with what's
happening. I don't want there to be any animosity with it. I want, you know, of course, I want the best deal, but I want the most fair deal.
Yeah,
for both sides. You know, bringing Cognitive into the Focus Cloud group obviously had a massive accretive value. Focus Cloud was already worth XYZ before we acquired Cognitive, but bringing Cognitive into the Focus Cloud group obviously had a huge accretive value. And part of my focus, no pun intended, was on what this would mean post-transaction, rather than worrying about the odd XYZ pennies hit, not pennies, definitely not pennies. But do you know what I mean? Don't worry about all of those little nitty-gritty things, because actually the Focus Cloud group is going to be a very powerful player after this. So let's just make this happen. And that was always in the back of my mind.
So why does it take a year?
You got to meet people. So I met senior members of the team over a period of time, because BAU obviously happens at the same time as well. Yeah. I've then got to make sure my team are backing this, because they're part of this bigger group function as well. So I need to get everyone aligned. And then part of the diligence process, you are diligencing a company that's never been diligenced, i.e. Focus Cloud.
Yeah.
Right. So all these skeletons, start coming up, which I didn't expect. You know, it actually was not. I don't want to paint a horrible picture here, but bear in mind we'd never had that kind of scrutiny, right? You have to go back 3 to 4 years, and you have to find bits of paperwork that you don't even know where they are, because you've forgotten about it. So you have to go through all of that, and we weren't set up like that at the same time as going through huge growth and already bulging at the seams. So that's why a lot of it took a fair amount of time. There was a number of meetings with partners that were going to help us to do this transaction as well. That all takes time. You know, I've got to decide which partner I want to do business with in that as well. All of it just dragged. You know, it just did. You know.
Was there a point where you thought it might not happen?
No. And that was purely down to the fact that whenever we hit a road bump or a speed bump, or there was a delay in something, because myself and John had such a good relationship. It was just the two of us getting on the phone together and going, this is what it is, John. Like, and he's going, yeah, I know. And is there anything that we can do to speed this up? And I'm like, yeah, we might be able to do this, and this. So we were talking together behind the scenes whilst the transaction was happening between two legal groups, trying to make sure that the legal side of this transaction is done in the proper way. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas the two CEOs are talking, I will never screw someone over, right? And I made that very clear to John from the start. I don't care how much money, it will never be a scenario where I think, could get away with that, might screw this person over because it's going to make me X amount of million, or what. I just won't do it, right? And he is similar. So when we're talking openly about these types of problems in the transaction, he knows that I'm telling the truth. His reactions, I know his reactions are the truth. So there's no trying to second guess anyone. What I say is gospel, and what he's saying is gospel. So it was a very easy transaction to get through once we'd got through the hard stuff.
Yeah. So when did it complete, and how did you take us to the place you were when you found out, when it had been done? What was the emotion like?
So we'd gone through a couple of deadline days. So we'd already overskipped the original deadline day, and that happened a few times. I think when it finally happened, I told the guys, and obviously John had told his guys that we were in a really good place and we were about to complete. And once it actually happened, I remember I had to go into the office and sign all these papers. Like there must have been 500 bits of paper. So just like, I'm sitting there for hours signing my signature, doing my signature, and then you need it witnessed. It's serious business. And then once the actual email had come through to say that Cognitive was now part of the Focus Cloud group, it's a great feeling, right? Because I now know, the value of the group. I know what this means for our people. And when I say our people, I'm talking about the Cognitive guys as well as the Focus Cloud guys. The cross-selling opportunities are absolutely huge. There's loads of Microsoft customers that, have got Workday or they got SAP and vice versa. So we've already started collaborating on cross-selling. It just, would it be strange if I said it was a little bit of an anticlimax though?
No, I think that's underwhelming. Anticlimax are two phrases I've heard a lot when it comes to acquisitions or sales of businesses.
Yeah, because I know 107 people. I know that we're a big player in the recruitment space, which is what I already wanted. And I'm sitting there on day one going, okay, so we just need to get on with it now. There was no party, there was no getting pissed. There was none of that. It didn't even cross my mind. I was just like, okay, we just need to get on with it now, and we need to grow this. We need to grow it. We need to hit our targets. And
so is John's going to stay involved for a number of years? Is that the plan?
Yeah. John's obviously got his earn out over a number of years. But then again, I'm also talking to John about retaining him past that.
Yeah.
So that's how well we get on, right? And I think if we continue to get on in the way that we are getting on and we have got on, I want him to be part of the Focus Cloud group for the next, 5 years.
Yeah.
He's got he's got a very good skill set, John. He's in my. He won't. I don't know how he'll feel about me saying this on this podcast as well. Right. It's not like it goes out to loads and loads of people in the recruitment industry, is it? But you know the way he talks. This was one of the things that I loved about John from the moment I very first met him. He talks like 007. Sounds like James Bond, right? So in my phone, he is John Shaken, Not Stirred King. And he knows this. I've shown him.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think he's got such a wonderful skill set, and he's got a lot to add to this journey.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a very calming influence, isn't he? And I think you bring a slightly different energy to the room. I think the kind of balance might be really interesting, actually, whether or not, you know, whatever role it plays. One question I've got this season is about, again, it's always going to be about growth and stories of success and just ups and downs and the shit we've talked about. But we are September 2022, and we're talking the signs of economic downturns are everywhere. I actually read an article yesterday about how, especially in the financial services space, jobs are not slowing down, and there's a huge driver that, you know, finding talent is more difficult than ever. So it sounds like, you know, in financial services, which is, you know, where the banks are controlling the interest rates, etc., the recruitment ain't slowing down. But did it play any factors involved in the timing of your sale? Did you worry about the fact that you might be buying a business before the economy crashes? And two, what are you seeing right now? And are you actually planning or feeling any effect? So first question is the timing of the transaction. When you started this a year ago, the market was fucking mental. A year later, I believe it's still good, but did that go through your mind at all, that you might be buying at the top of the market when things could crash and actually might be a very difficult period afterwards?
No, not really. I think the challenge is I have a mindset that, you know, it doesn't matter what the economy says. You know, you are the king of your destiny, right? So I think, you know, potential downturns and things like that are great, actually, because it allows you to go and pick up more business, because unfortunately not everyone has that mindset, right? So they all a lot of them will fall into the trap of thinking the market's not busy, which is why I'm not picking up the jobs, which is why I'm not making the placements, and which is why I haven't hit my target and things like that. Whereas I just think, what economic downturn? I've not heard about that. What I'm trying to say is I don't really care about any of that.
Yeah,
it's never been something I've worried about. You know, we've just gone through the pandemic. We grew 400% in the pandemic. You know, if we can do that, if there was a slight downturn, I'm sure we can grow through that too, with the right mindset. And the problem that I have is that I would have that mindset. The guys at Focus Cloud would know that that's how I think, but the guys at Cognitive don't. So that's obviously something that I need to make sure is installed. And I think with you know, certainly Paul Knox, who's the managing director over at Cognitive, he certainly thinks like I do.
Yeah.
You know, he certainly has that same sort of mindset. So I think it's whatever is thrown at us, we'll just eat it and roll on.
Are you seeing any changes, like genuinely now? If you're looking above your business, maybe not at Cognitive just yet, whatever financials and tracking of.
I'm seeing both now.
Right, so are you actually seeing any economic effect at the moment? Be honest.
We are just about to reach a very, very big milestone that Focus Cloud has never managed to reach, which is 7 figures GP in a month. We're about to hit that. And Cognitive have continuously seen record months, and they're about to do another record month in the very month, or in the very first month that we are part of. We're now a group company. So no, the answer is no. It's business. It's business as usual. We gotta be positive. We've got to make sure that we're spreading positivity to our candidates, to our clients, to the whole markets and the individual markets that we're working in, and that cannot stop, no matter what anyone else is saying.
Well, look, that's kind of the message I want to get a truthful response from everyone I talk to in this season. I'm not here to say there's a recession. There isn't a recession. What I'm personally,
what does that mean?
Well, you know what it means. It just means a recession.
Yeah,
it's when your hairline starts there and it ends up there. Fucking, you've had a big one. You've had the biggest recession I know, mate. But in truth, all I want is reality of the business market. And if I look across my portfolio of clients, there's about just under 200 clients in the Hoxo ecosystem at the moment. Very little complaints about anything. Still hearing about record months. I think the candidate control and candidate management has been a challenge for a year. That's still there. Yesterday, I had a client say to me, he just had a board meeting and he won't be investing in anything new for the next 6 months because of the fear of what they think could happen in financial services. He's a finance and accounting recruiter. First time I've heard that, but again, everyone, like you say, everyone responds differently to things. So he's making that choice. That's his decision. I'm excited actually for the next 6 to 12 months. I'm not worried either, but I do want to get a real honest approach to it from people like you, as opposed to just sprouting shit that you don't, like the news. Let's find out what people think. Lloyd, we're an hour and 10 almost. I think I've got another question for you, and then I think we could probably wrap it up, right? So, and I think I've asked you this at the end of each episode, but I've got two questions. The first question is, where do you think what is the vision now? So I know you've got this cloud-based engine you're growing, but if I was going to interview again, which I'm sure I will because it's great fun, but if we did it in a year's time, what would we be talking about Focus Cloud then? Like, what's the kind of immediate term plan?
I'd say the short to medium term plan is to make sure that the integration of cognitive is seamless. All the early signs are extremely positive. We've got to fuse their culture with our culture, which actually are very similar. Yeah. So I don't think there's going to be huge problems. I don't think there's going to be huge problems with any of it, to be honest. We've just got to build one company with two companies. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that cognitive have that Focus Cloud don't have or don't do, that we're going to bring into the group. And there's going to be a lot of stuff on the other side that we're going to, so we end up with one culture, one way of doing things. So that's quite important for me for the next 6 to 9 months. I would say that if we're talking again in 18 to 24 months, you might see another brand in that. It's possible you might see another acquisition in that time as well.
Right.
We're really looking to consolidate what we've currently got, grow what we've currently got. We also opened an office in the USA in March of this year, and we want to grow the US team. It's in Boston.
Boston.
Right. Boston.
And you also have you still got Gatwick, or are you all in Brighton now? What's the situation there?
We moved the Gatwick office down to Brighton, and then we've moved the London Bridge office to Fenchurch Street, which is where I am today.
Right.
Much bigger office, both of them. And then we've got the 2 guys currently in the US, and we want to grow that as well. All we've got in the US at the moment physically there is only Workday. So we want SAP to be there, Salesforce, we want Cognitive to be there.
Yeah. So Cognitive, where are they based? Are they all London?
They're just literally around the corner. They're literally around the corner. So they're in Minster Court at the moment.
Court. Yeah, I know it.
And perhaps we might come together in the London office as one. That makes sense in the next 6 to 12 months for sure.
And what about the move to Brighton then? So you obviously Gatwick was where you were living. Are you living in Brighton now? Are you close to that?
I live down. I actually moved. Yes. Yeah. So I live in between Brighton and Bognor.
Right.
And bought a house there. God, just over a year ago. And then shortly after, was it before? Can't remember if it was before or after. Decided to move the office from Gatwick to Brighton. The same problems that we had in Gatwick, we were experiencing the same problems. It's really, really tough to get good people there. So we figured if we move the office down to a bigger city, i.e. Brighton, where you've got access to the university students and those types of things, we can grow the company a lot bigger. And that's worked out quite nicely for us.
Have you had anyone who's been like, it's annoying because they kind of lived in between London and Gatwick, and now they're nowhere near Brighton or whatever? Like, is it accommodated the team? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, it was the company's decision, right? Yeah. So when I did that, I said to all of the guys that were going to be affected by the travel, the company will cover that. Yeah. So we got a couple of the guys company cars, electric, so not big fire breathing monsters as you're normally used to. So electric cars. And then we made sure that all of our existing staff that were affected by that move were not financially affected whatsoever by that move.
Right. And what's the office down there like? Is it different to Gatwick? Does it feel different?
Yeah, I would say so. Our current office overlooks Brighton Beach, so you can actually see the water and everything.
Yeah, I've seen it on your pictures. Yeah,
but we've outgrown that already down there. So we had all these graphics and stuff. The office down in Brighton, current office down in Brighton, looks really nice. And we've got a picture of an embroidered picture of the GTR that goes right across the interview room. It's like really nice. And then once we had all that done, we outgrew the office, so we got to move.
Oh wow!
And you can't take all the stickers off and stuff. So I've got to have it all done again. And then we'll do London as well. London's huge now. This current London office would probably incorporate cognitive into this one as well.
How many heads are in London? How many in Brighton?
About 25 or so down in Brighton, and the rest Focus Cloud are in the London office. But then you've got the 40 odd people in cognitive in their current office. Yeah. So the idea is to fuse those two together so we can have one office, Yeah,
and there might even be some people in that business who would prefer to work in Brighton, I bet. Like eventually you could have, would you do that or?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different opportunities for everyone in the Focus Cloud group, right? So, you've got people who can be chupied over to different brands. If someone wants an opportunity to go and work in a different market, fancies doing something else, they can go and work in a different brand because we've got those separate different companies. We've got the opportunity for people to now move abroad as well. So if someone turned around and said they wanted to go and live and work in the US, we can send them to the US. Australia or somewhere in APAC will be next for us. So we'll have that option for people as well. It's never been a better time to be part of this company.
Yeah, it sounds mega, mate. Sounds like. And my final question was, so I asked it, but I don't think we got the answer from it because we went all over. But how do you let people work now? Have you gone back 5 days? Is there a 3 day, a 2 day? Like, how do you operate? Because it is. I mean, we've had a few calls and you're at home, but I think you were always, because you were dialed 24/7, you'd make a call with me at home. So I can't really see the difference. How do you describe it?
Yeah, so we're in the offices 4 days currently. Yeah. And then we work from home on the Fridays. And then we have every Friday afternoon off. So effectively we're 4.5 days currently.
Yeah, that's what we are as well.
Cognitive have a different way of doing it. They're only in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, we need to find a way of fusing that culture together. We did have a couple of options that we tried out, like a 9-day fortnight, which Cognitive do actually. So when we was in transaction mode and I heard about this 9-day fortnight, so Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, day off on the Friday, I thought that's a magnificent idea. Why don't we roll that out of Focus Cloud? So that was even before Cognitive became part of the Focus Cloud group, right? And it didn't really work for us, you know.
We do the same as you. We finish at midday on a Friday now, and everyone loves it. Like it's been a revelation for us. Friday's more of an, get your shit done day in the morning, catch up with the team, and then, it's been people just getting on trains and flights and going away and doing things, and it's massive. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of different things that you can and we will do for our people. But one of the things that I have learned throughout this process, when you're trying to tweak all that sort of stuff, it's very important to make sure that that's actually going to make a difference to those people. Because what I'm sitting there thinking, that'd be really good for all of our people, and then you roll it out, and actually it's not. They don't really care.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think any other tweaks or changes would need to be kind of almost sanctioned by our people.
It'll be coming from the feedback, right?
Yeah.
Lloyd, I want to say thank you. Like 3 episodes together. I actually think your evolution across each one is incredible. The first one was all about Lloyd as the guy, as the beast, as the biller and the mindset and the do or die. The second was the evolution into people and, what the business was doing for you and your faith and the way you were helping other people outside of the office. And now you've kind of lived through some of the dreams you talked about. You've acquired a business. You've got this 100-person business. It's been, I've loved watching it and listening to it. I know people will. There's no doubt we'll have a part 4. I'd love to see the Sean Anderson quiff on your head at that point.
Yeah, you have to send me that.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. But mate, thank you for what you're doing. The sharing these stories with the industry as honestly as you do. I know you. I know this is not. It's 100% Lloyd Gordon. It's what people need. You can always get an investment deck version of what someone's done. We're fucking brilliant. It's not the truth, and I think people really respond to these conversations. So, yeah, pleasure, mate. I love it. And please, I imagine if anyone wants to reach out and ask questions, you'd respond to them. You give them a bit of time.
Absolutely.
And I think everyone
wants a little bit of mentorship or anything, or anyone's thinking of doing something as well with their recruitment business. If it's a smaller recruitment business, you fancy being part of a larger group, with a big plan. Reach out to me, because we're in the market looking. We're in the market looking for opportunities.
Well, I hope people do, mate. And if they cite the Rug podcast, I get 10% of the transaction, which is even better. So look forward to that. Lloyd, we'll get you back on soon, mate. Stay safe. We'll see you soon, okay? Thank you, mate.
Take care, Sean.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.